What's up guys, David here. This is going to be a different video from my usual tutorials. I want to talk about what no-code automation is, why it matters or why it should matter to you, and some examples. So I was surprised to find that there weren't many YouTube videos covering this topic. And with the rise of AI and automation and the combination of the two, I know why not be one of the first ones to make this video. So why don't we get into it? What is no-code automation? So by definition, no-code automation is just using a platform like Make or some sort of, I'm going to stick with Make because that's all I know. And that platform allows you to connect to different apps, transfer data between the apps, essentially allowing you to make some sort of process or like sequence of events. So how it works is you connect your tools or apps rather, like Google Sheets to your Google Drive, to your CRM, to ChatGPT, to make some sort of lead filtering system, or maybe you want to update something in your Google Sheet so then it updates into your Google Drive, right? So then you don't have to go into every single application and then change that update. You can only just go into one. So that's one way to do it. Why does this matter? Well, we all know time is everything. It's probably the most valuable asset there is. And this saves you an incredible amount of time if leveraged properly. You can also reduce human error. This is under the impression that you set up the automation perfectly, but there's always going to be some sort of, I guess you could say, I don't want to say an error, but there's always going to be, you're never going to be certain. So I think it's always important to go and check back on that automation regularly or have some sort of error handler. And then the last one is you get more done with fewer resources. So you can save money on an employee, and then always also going back to that time thing, you could get more done, like maybe allocating your skills on sales rather than repetitive tasks or some sort of daily operation. So those are three big reasons as to why it should matter. So I'm going to give you three examples. They're quite specific, but one of which is content curation. So this, for example, is a pretty simple automation. It takes about 10 minutes to set up. And let me explain how it works. So this one, you take a Google Sheet and you have two columns. You have articles that you'd like to share with your audience, and then you have your notes or take on the articles in the other column. And it should take you about 10 minutes to find these articles, preferably ones that you've already read. And then you just kind of brain dump or, add your take to the column next to it on the article. And you can have it run in intervals of daily or whatever interval you want. And what's going to happen is Bitly is going to shorten the article link. Perplexity is going to take the article, summarize it for you. And then AI is going to take your prompt writing style. Obviously you have to configure this and use your notes and then turn it into a post where you're pretty much sharing your take along with the article. And then you have it post to LinkedIn or Facebook directly. So just that in itself is one example of how you can save, I'd say, hours a week, because, you took 1 hour to set everything up and you don't have to really go back and post those to those two platforms manually. The automation just running on its own. That's one right there. Second one is efficient organization. And this one also shaves off a lot of time from your operations too, especially if you're running a lean team. So I do run a content agency, and this automation here is also a simple one, and it saves us a lot of time, at least 2 to 3 hours a week, depending on how many shoots we get done. But what this does is, as soon as we have a new shoot, well, let me preface this by saying I run a content agency. I mean, that's the bread and butter, right? Content, photos, videos, edits. So we have a lot of files that we have to deal with. And sometimes we're even going back into previous shoots that we did months ago or even weeks ago. And so we need to know where every file is at any moment. And this saves us time, because every time we do a new shoot, we have to make a new folder structure to stay organized, because we need to stay organized to find all these files. And so rather than us having to download the zip file, open the zip file, rename the zip file, copy it back into a Google Drive, we just use this automation. Excuse me. So that's another one. And then I think the third, so project launch. What I mean by this project launch is you can do things that you probably wouldn't have otherwise done unless you realize that you can use automation as a tool. And what I mean by that is this automation right here, it's a bit more complex, but this allows you to create faceless videos up to a minute long if you configure it that way. But right now it's configured to about 15 seconds. And the faceless videos that I'm talking about can be pretty hyper realistic, and it even comes with a narration. Now, something like this you could take as much as a day to fine tune the prompting and ensure that the video generations are coming out the way you want. But overall, something like this could allow you to strategize how you want to create your faceless YouTube or TikTok channel, and you're just focusing on refining the prompting, right? Because if you were to start a faceless YouTube or TikTok channel on your own without any automation tools, it would probably take you at least like 30 to 45 minutes to create a 15-second video. And you would have to constantly be going back to every single platform to download it and then put it into a video editor, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this automation actually just runs in the background and does it for you in 20, 25 minutes. And it's running in the background. So you don't have to go back and do all those things. And that's just another way to save a lot of time. And you could take on more projects this way too. Or you can maybe start your own business, whatever that might be. So those are a few specific examples as to why you might want to use automation. And there's probably a limitless amount, but those are just a few. So yeah, the bottom line, as I mentioned, time is money, right? We only have 24 hours in a day, and a third of that is spent sleeping, give or take. And as humans, we do have natural constraints like burnout, fatigue, emotion. Sometimes we have a bad day. But that can also work in our favor. Sometimes we're feeling super motivated and we really want to get after it and we just kill it that day. But it varies, truthfully. And so, like I just said, we do have strengths, and those strengths being complex problem solving, creativity, and empathy. And I think if I address the automation constraints, you'll get a better understanding of what I'm saying here. So some automation constraints would be the inability to self-innovate without human input. So once we set up an automation, the automation can't just fix itself. Not only that, there's so many ways of doing a single automation, and the person who set it up is going to be the one that figures that out. So the automation requires a handler or a creator, and then that creator also has the capability of making it as optimal as possible, as complex, or as streamlined as possible. So I think that would fall into our complex problem solving and creativity skills, right? Those are our strengths as complex, intelligent beings. And automation constraint number 2 requires initial setup and oversight. I would consider that more of like a operational cost rather than a constraint, because it's just, you have to set up every single automation. I guess not, because you can also copy and paste the blueprint, but nonetheless, I really think that the biggest constraint for the automation is the inability to self-innovate and maybe not do as complex tasks, but eventually we'll get there. So diving a little deeper into that, automation strengths include the ability to execute tasks flawlessly if we're able to set them up perfectly, including error handlers or things like that. Right. Automations can also operate all the time, 24/7 in the background without you having to go inside and hit start. They're also cost effective, and they do show a quick ROI. I guess in terms of time, they do, like that faceless automation that I just showed you. And so those are things you want to keep in mind when you're thinking, what can I automate? Well, what is repetitive, fairly simple, that doesn't require a lot of complex steps? Right. And then what's something that needs to be done every single day, or can be done in the background, or maybe there's not necessarily a time correlation to it other than it being completed that day. And what shouldn't be automated? Well, that's debatable. I think a lot of things can be automated. So, but anyway, let's talk about the human strengths. Well, we are adaptable, creative, and innovative. We can also provide empathy and build relationships, and we have a bit of a higher level of decision making. With AI, Do we really? I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, and then our limitations, we are prone to errors, especially when fatigued or rushed or when emotions come into play at times. And then we also cost a lot more money. So as employees, to hire a person costs more money than, having a monthly subscription to make.com and a few APIs. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we harness the best of both worlds. We let the automation handle straightforward, repetitive tasks, and we free the humans to focus on creativity, innovation, and complex problem solving. Example number one, if I spent more time in my sales process knowing that my file organization or my lead filtering or my daily content updates are being taken care of by an automation, I would probably get more clients because I would quite literally be connecting with more people and making more calls or text messages or emails is a little bit different. Maybe you could use cold email and then that's an automation process. So that's one thing right there. Or maybe reconnecting with clients that I already have, ensuring that they're good. So there's no churn. And what do we have the automation do that allows us to do this money-making task? Well, it's the daily content updates, the file structure organization, really anything that's repetitive. And so that is why automation should matter to you as a business or a creator. So what are some automation platforms that you can use? Well, we have two options. There's actually three, but I've never used n8n.com. I've been in the automation space for less than 6 months, full transparency, but it's been a blessing. It's probably, as of the time of me talking about this, one of like the best things that I've ever learned in terms of high income skill, because the overhead is significantly less than running a whole agency, like a content agency for that matter, a digital marketing agency. The services are productized. So I'm selling the system rather than my hours. At least that's my business model. And I mean, it's bleeding edge. It's brand new. At least it's newer than, right, a marketing agency running ads or creating content. So those are just a few examples right there. But anyway, going back to the two platforms, you have make.com and you have Zapier. Make.com is what I prefer. They have less native app integrations, but for me, it's less clunky and I feel like it's more flexible. Zapier, on the other hand, has more native app integrations. It's probably easier or better for beginners, but it's more expensive as well. Whereas make.com is more cost efficient. So that is why automation should matter to you. If you're looking for more tutorials, go ahead and check out my channel. I also have a lot of resources on TikTok, David Multiply. And leave a comment if you want me to make a video on something. I'll be sure to get back to you. Or if you have any questions, I'll be sure to reach back out to you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.